the jury. The prosecution is not going to get that man today. No. Because I'm going to get him.
Thursday, October 3rd, 2013. We are joined by our very special guest this hour, Mr. Bahman Nassiri. Folks, you're going to love this story. He is a filmmaker, a former Muslim who has converted to Christianity. His last radio appearance was on True News, and I'm going to turn it over to my dad.
In fact, I was on with Rick Wiles today, and Rick Wiles, Mr. Nassiri, sang your praises, said that you were just a fantastic guest, that we would just love you. We already do love you based on your product, your the Golden Veil, the DVD that you have out, and folks who don't know who Mr. Nassiri is visit HomelandSecurityUS.com. Click on the web, or click on the link to his DVD, and there you will find a nice bio about him and, of course, his work product. Mr. Nassiri, welcome to the Hagmann Report, sir.
Mr. Hagmann and Mr. Hagmann, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the introduction.
Well,
I would also like to thank your producer, Mitch Santel, without whom I would not have been on this show tonight. And I would like to thank a 13-year-old boy by the name of Scott, whom I have never met. He watched my interview with Rick Wiles of True News and put me in touch with Mitch Santel.
Right.
Scott, I know you are listening, and long after I leave this mortal planet, I want you to remember that you played a major part in the enlightenment of the American people and the human race. Before we begin, I would like to thank your listeners for spending an hour of their precious time to listen to this interview. And I'd like to say that I lived in darkness until I converted from Islam to Christianity, and the light of Christ shone upon me. To those who believe that Freemasons rule the world, I say I was a nobody until I turned Christian, and Jesus blessed me. Jesus blessed my words to be heard through the Hagmanns. So, if you allow me, I would like to begin a short prayer. Father in heaven.
Please. Yes.
Father in heaven, I want to remember in prayer all those who have sacrificed their lives in struggle against tyranny and the search for freedom. I pray for their families, that you would strengthen and comfort them, that you would be provision to them, and that you would shower your mercies upon them. I pray specifically for those who perpetrate violence against the human race to serve their agenda, that they would be convicted and come to know the true light of Jesus Christ. I pray for justice, and I pray that truth would reign and that lies and cover-ups would be subverted. In the name of Jesus, amen. Mr. Hagmann.
Amen. And
amen, indeed. Wow. That was a very powerful prayer. I have to say that you're... we say a lot of prayers on this program, and for a good reason. Starting out this interview with a prayer, we're going to be talking about some pretty heavy subjects here. You're first of all, you're a filmmaker. You're involved in the film industry. You created a DVD, The Golden Veil. I listened again. I listened to your interview prior to my interview with Rick today. I was on his show today, and again we spoke about you. But I listened to your interview on with Rick. You go back in you take what's taking place in the Middle East today, the Arab Spring. We know that this was planned, but you take this back into 1979. Actually, you go back into 16th century Afghanistan, where these various groups have their roots. We're going to give you the floor, and if you can just kind of paint us a picture of what's going on today in the Middle East because of, well, who's behind what's going on today here? Because we know that there are secret societies at play. We know that the 79 hostage crisis was not what it seemed. It was created by Western intelligence agencies. So go ahead and paint us a picture as to what we're seeing today versus, or because of what happened so long ago.
Yes, sure. I will be delighted. First, if you allow me, I would like to introduce myself to your listeners. I'm an Iranian exile turned into an Iranian-American filmmaker, and now disappointed as President Obama opens dialogue with Iran. I produced a feature film called The Golden Veil, in which I have shown how the Illuminati operate and how they installed the brutal regime of the Islamic Republic of Iran in 1979 as the first step of the final plan for the new world order. I shall explain this later in this program. I urge your listeners who wish to know more about me to type my name in YouTube search. And for that reason, I'd like to spell my name. My first name is Bahman, that's B-A-H-M-A-N, and last name is Nassiri, N-A-S-S-I-R-I. Mr. Hagmann, I have a lot to say in 60 minutes. Therefore, I'd like to begin, if you don't mind, and I shall pause after each paragraph to hear your comments.
All right.
My reason for being on your show tonight is to make Americans realize to save planet Earth and prevent World War III, the Islamic Republic of Iran has to be exterminated. Following this interview, I will probably be the most unpopular person amongst Iranians, but I do not care because my fight is against a bunch of Palestinian sympathizers who invaded my country 34 years ago. They took Americans hostage for 444 days, and they've been chanting death to America for 34 years. Now President Obama wants to brainwash Americans that these people have suddenly turned into angels of peace. No, this is just another trick in their holy book of tricks. Despite all peaceful talks, the Islamic Republic of Iran is trying to buy time until they reach capability of manufacturing not only one, but hundreds of nuclear warheads, with one aim in their minds: to attack Israel. We have to understand the dangerous psychology of the Shiite sect of Islam. These people are looking forward to Armageddon. They have been brainwashed that the more they suffer in this life, they'll have more they will have more rewards in heaven. They all want to become martyrs. They believe that in Armageddon, their Imam Mahdi, their 12th Imam, that is called Mahdi, will come and take them all to heaven. Now, let us talk about the plans for the New World Order. Would you like me to continue?
Yes, please. And this, folks, please pay very close attention to what is about to be said here, because this lays the foundation, and this will give you a greater understanding of that panorama that we've been talking about. Sir, go ahead.
To begin, I'd like to read a letter that was written by Albert Pike to an Italian revolutionary by the name of Mazzini, dated August 15th, 1871, in which he outlined his vision of 3 world wars, which would ultimately bring about a one-world government. Albert Pike was the Grand Commander of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry in the 19th century. He was born December 29, 1809, and died April 2, 1891. The letter was displayed at the British Museum in London for a short period before it was removed. It goes on to say, the First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and German empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Germany is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute the sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam and political Zionism destroy each other. Now, please remember that Albert Pike died in 1891. His predictions on World War I and World War II came true exactly, and remains to be seen if his predictions on World War III will also be as accurate. Mr. Hagmann, I do not believe that Albert Pike had the power of prophecy to predict things so accurately. Therefore, I strongly believe that Albert Pike's writings were based on his knowledge of a master plan that was drawn long before World War I.
I agree. And
you
Steve
agree?
Quayle, yes, as a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard Steve Quayle, you've heard various people like Tom Horn, others talk about the letter from Albert. 3 World Wars just not fiction. This is, in fact, dead-on accurate information being provided. World War I was an extension of World War II was an extension of World War I, and of course, World War III is going to be a result of, World War III is going to be an extension of what happened right after World War II in terms of the much like the League of Nations, the United Nations, the entire carving up of Europe is really going to, or it plays a very significant part in World War III, in the upcoming World War III, right? I mean, that's part of it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. And the secret societies behind this, by the way, the Illuminati behind this is not a very insignificant. It's not very insignificant. It's very significant, as a matter of fact. The Great Britain's role, France, the United States, the Illuminati, the secret societies, very, very critical in understanding what has taken place after World War II.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Would you like
continue,
me
sir.
to
Yes,
continue?
please. Yes.
Okay, now I became a Freemason in Iran in 1974 at the age of 21. Following the Iranian Revolution of 1979, I settled in Oxford, England, and having graduated from Oxford Brookes University in the field of building technology, I formed a company specializing in renovation of historical buildings in and around Oxford. During this time, I joined the Oxford Masonic Lodge at 333 Banbury Road, Oxford. In 1991, after divorce, I came to the United States, and a few years later, I joined the Masonic Lodge number 693 in Palm Springs, California, where President Gerald Ford was a member. In 2005, at the age of 52, I received my 32nd degree of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. I was honored to be a Freemason for 31 years of my life and also served as a Shriner. Having climbed up to the 32nd step of King Solomon's Temple, I knew that the 33rd step would lead me to the lodge above, where I would be illuminated. However, I realized that no Freemason of the 33rd degree had ever entered the lodge above, which some scholars have called it the Illuminati. And in fact, every Mason I spoke to believed that it never existed, until I met an illuminated brother who was one of my father's best friends, and he told us everything. 4 months ago, on Rick Wiles' True News interview, without mentioning the brother's name, my tongue slipped, and I did say that the man lived in Washington, D.C., and he was Iranian. 3 weeks later, they found him dead in his apartment. I was relieved to hear that cause of death was heart attack. His tongue wasn't cut off by the root, and his heart remained intact. The information that I gathered from this brother for over a decade has been written and placed in a secret location with full documents and a long list of members to be released upon my death, not by any member of my family, but by a lawyer who resides outside of California. This will be published and released as a book called The Golden Mask. This action will guarantee my safety while I am alive, since the book will only be released upon my death. And until such time, Mr. Hagmann, I will be regarded as just another conspiracy theorist. What I learned from this brother is as follows. I will pause here in case you would like to.
I'm just stunned. Mr. Nassiri, I'm stunned at the fact that when you were on Rick Wiles, you happened to merely mention the ethnicity and the location of your source, and what you're saying tonight. And that interview was not that long ago. What you're saying tonight was 3 weeks after that interview. He was found dead, and of course, you do suspect murder from this for obvious reasons. Now, wow.
I know, but in my inner heart, I truly want to believe that it was just coincidental, and the cause of death was natural heart attack. If you don't mind, I'd like to continue.
Yes, please.
The structure of Freemasonry is brilliant. Good men are initiated to become better men. And indeed, they do become better men. and the best of them become Shriners to help unfortunate children through the Shriners hospitals. Some who reach the 32nd degree or even the honorary degree of the 33rd realize that they know nothing but some ancient stories, philosophical thoughts, mathematics, and geometry. Brethren are made to believe that the highest degree is the 33rd, and there is nothing beyond that, but there is. There is a lodge above the lodge of the double-headed eagle, and it's called Lodge of the Eagles. Call them Illuminati, Bilderberg, or what you may, but their true name is the Eagles. The most secret brotherhood with less than 1,000 members who are the most powerful bankers, arms manufacturers, and oil barons. And these are the men who rule upon us. Now, imagine a pyramid. 7 billion people on Earth lie at the bottom of the pyramid. They are considered not to be important. Good Masons occupy the main part of the pyramid. And a small top section, which carries the all-seeing eye, is occupied by the eagles. But there is a section between the Masons and the eagles, which is occupied by two other secret societies, the Skull and Bones and the Roshanaya. Would you like me to continue?
Yes, sir, please. You've got the floor.
Okay. I'd like to talk about the Roshanaya and the Skull and Bones, the Roshanaya and the Skull and Bones connection before revealing what I know about the eagles. First, let me spell the word Roshanaya. That's Roshaniyah, which means Illuminati in Afghan and Persian language. The 16th century saw the rise of a very powerful secret society based upon a secret cult in the mountains of Afghanistan called the Roshanaya, meaning the illuminated ones. References to the existence of this mystical fraternity exist from the time of the House of Wisdom at Cairo, several hundred years before. In fact, the Roshanaya are just a later emergence of the old cult of the assassins. To learn full history of the Roshanaya, please type the word Roshanaya in YouTube and watch a video which I uploaded 8 months ago titled Illuminati Exposed 2013 the Roshanaya. Now please listen to this carefully. The Roshanaya is the sister branch of the Skull and Bones. Osama bin Laden was a member of the Roshanaya, and George W. Bush a member of the Skull and Bones. This is useful information for those who believe 9/11 was an inside job. Osama bin Laden joined the Roshanaya at the age of 21, although he would never admit to it. And he played a major part in kicking Russians out of Afghanistan. Later, he formed what is known as Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is also controlled by the Eagles. Now, back to the Eagles. Any comments? Hello?
No. No. That's fine. There was a delay there. I apologize.
There is a question about the Eagles. The eagle symbolism that is used. Also, with that, were there any special types of rings these people wore?
I don't know about rings.
Okay, that was a listener question. I just wanted to make sure I got that in. Go ahead and continue.
Well, I mean, most definitely they will have certain jewels, including rings, because they are basically very similar to the Freemasons. Now, the Eagles make presidents and remove those presidents who disobey their orders, such as JFK through assassination and Jimmy Carter through the Iran hostage crisis, as I have shown in my feature film, The Golden Veil. The Eagles meet in secret inside a temple in Washington, D.C. They have rituals very similar to Freemasons, as shown in my unpublished book called The Golden Mask. The Eagles' ultimate plan is the establishment of a new world order, to be completed through a third world war. This war will begin over the Middle East and spread. The plan of the Eagles is to enable Iran's manufacture of nuclear warheads behind the scenes, while on the surface they will be watched, or they may be watched by IAEA, etc. Final agenda is for Muslims and Jews to wipe each other out, as Albert Pike wrote. I would like to add here, it is not important for Iran to manufacture one nuclear head against Israel's 200 warheads. What is most dangerous is for Iran to have the knowledge and capability to manufacture hundreds of nuclear warheads in a very short frame of time. Many intelligent people are wondering why dictators are overthrown by the United States, Britain, and France, only to be replaced by Islamic fanatics. This is exactly the plan of the Eagles, which began with the overthrow of the Shah of Iran in 1979 and bringing an illiterate Islamic fanatic called Ayatollah Khomeini. The aim is to create the big enemy. To make big war, you need big enemy. To create big enemy, you need differences in race, religion, and political systems. To make war, you need economic depression. To make war, you need to create hatred. Chantings of death to America and death to Israel for 34 years by the Islamic Republic of Iran is an example of that. Attacking embassies, taking hostages, and large-scale terrorist attacks are other tools used. Over the next couple of years, until the big enemy is created, terrorism will enter new dimensions, created by the Eagles as false flags. Americans should be ready for a biochemical attack on U.S. soil. Is it not sad?
Wow.
Is it not sad to think that in the 21st century, less than 1,000 people rule upon 7 billion people, Mr. Hagmann?
It's definitely sad on a lot of levels, yes. And I wonder, is it our complacency, or is it the magnitude of the lies, sir?
It's the magnitude of the lies, and it's the fact that people do not believe the things that some people know and say. They immediately label them as conspiracy theorists, and no one takes them seriously.
Wow.
The Islamic Republic of Iran was created in 1979 by the Eagles as the first step of the final chapter towards the establishment of the New World Order. The Eagles' plan for a New World Order will result in a total invasion of the Middle East after Jews and Muslims wipe each other out and after the nuclear fallout or black rain ends. The war will begin when the whole of the Middle East turns into Islamic fundamentalist republics like in Iran, anti-American and anti-Israel. If, according to Albert Pike's writings, Muslims and Jews have to wipe each other out, Iran must be allowed to manufacture its nuclear heads, not one, but 200 of them. But first, we have to look at the nuclear balance, and that's a research that I carried out. When you're ready, I will go through that.
I'm going to let you go ahead and, at your leisure, at your timing, you go ahead. You've got the floor. You're doing very well.
Thank you. If we exclude North Korea's 10 nuclear warheads, U.S., Britain, and France balance China and Russia with 8,500 nuclear heads on each side of the scale. India and Pakistan balance each other out with 100 nuclear warheads on each side of the scale. We are left with 200 warheads owned by Israel and nothing on the other side of the scale. Now, let me say that the only reason Israel has remained safe is because of this nuclear imbalance. If Iran develops atomic weapons, I can assure you that Israel will be threatened in no time, and World War III will break out. We are at a crucial point in the history of mankind, and the only way to prevent such disaster is to support Israel to negate Iran's ability to pursue its ambition. In time, even Iranians will understand the importance of my concerns aimed at preventing an all-out war. And Mr. Hagmann, this is due to the psychology of the Shiite sect of Islam. Because they are looking forward to Armageddon. They would want to, if they have those atomic weapons, they would want to begin that war. Their psychology is different. If we had atomic weapons at the time of the Shah, we would all have been safe. Israel and Iran were friends, good relationships, but now the problem is this fanatical, crazy, psychopathic regime in Iran that is danger to civilization. Now, I was thinking, if Winston Churchill had not succeeded in persuading Roosevelt to join in, Hitler would have won, and we would not have had Jewish people on earth today. If Israel fails to persuade President Obama to stand up against the third Antichrist, Iran will soon manufacture its nuclear heads, and Albert Pike's predictions will come true. And that is the wish of the Eagles. I would also like to answer a question often asked, that if the plan of the Eagles results in destruction of Israel, how come there are some famous Jewish families in the elite club? I will not mention names, but I'm sure, Mr. Hagmann, you know plenty of them.
Yes.
I have a very logical answer to this question. In the same way that the Iranian elite billionaires, such as Khamenei and Rafsanjani, etc., they do not care about the Iranian people, and in the same way that the elite in the United States do not care about the American people, those Jewish families would not care about the Jewish people either. When it comes to money and power, there is no patriotism. If the world populace listen to this broadcast, perhaps they may realize there are a few hundred families who rule upon 7 billion people, and if we cannot rise up against them and destroy their weapons of mass destruction, if we cannot have the courage to destroy the demons and stop the massacre of our children, then our existence is worthless. Mr. Hagmann and Mr. Hagmann, I have released the truth as I know it. May the great architect of the universe prove me wrong, and may Christ save us all if I am right.
We hope and pray for the latter, for sure. Now, you mentioned a couple of things in particular about the number of families, the number of people in the elite Eagles. We have gotten so many questions here for you. Certainly feel comfortable with answering only those questions that you feel comfortable answering. And if you decline to answer a question, certainly we understand based on the sensitive nature of what we're talking about.
Sure.
Now, that said, one of the questions, and this is one I've got, is why is the United States in actually doing the bidding of Saudi Arabia pushing so hard to war with Syria? Where does that fit into the grand scheme of plans?
Okay, the Syrian situation is very interesting because, you see, as I mentioned, the big plan is to turn all these Middle Eastern countries into fanatical Islamic republics like Iran. Now, the Assad regime is not a fanatical Islamic regime like Iran. They are friends, the two countries. However, that's not exactly true either, because Iran actually has been supplying arms to the rebels, and on the other hand, it's been sending soldiers and helping the Assad regime. It's
exactly
right. So
like
Iran would not
chess.
care. Iran would not really care if Assad falls, and even a more fanatical regime gets in power. So the plan is that. That's why they were trying. They were trying to bomb Syria and get rid of Assad, and then pull out like the other countries like Iraq, like Libya, etc. Libya, 3/4 of Libya is in the hands of Al Qaeda.
Correct.
And they want the same thing to happen in Syria, to get rid of Assad and let Al Qaeda and the rebels get in. In Egypt, they succeeded. They installed Islamic Brotherhood, but people rose up and there was a coup. But I bet you the coup will not last. I bet you Islamic Brotherhood will get back in. So the big plan is to turn these countries into Islamic republics one by one. Now, I did mention in Rick Wiles' interview that Saudi Arabia actually is a big question for me. Whether this, because Saudi Arabia is the biggest oil-producing country in the world, and whether this the rise of the Arab Spring will get into Saudi Arabia also or not, because already there are sleeper cells inside Saudi Arabia, and I just have the feeling that the big thing that's going to happen is going to be on Saudi Arabia. But I don't know. That is a big question in my mind, whether it's going to spread to Saudi Arabia or not. Does that answer part of the question?
Indeed it does. And according to one intelligence source that I've got, he said the same thing, almost identical to what you said, because of the asymmetry of this war that's being fought, this New World Order. Watch perhaps the blowback. Something happened in Saudi Arabia. We already saw an assassination attempt there with that gentleman using a body-worn explosive device that was actually impacted, and pardon me, folks, for being gross here, but in his rectum. We saw that assassination attempt. So there could very well be something to happen with Saudi Arabia. So we have to watch that close. Now, Ken from Enid, Oklahoma asks, and again, sir, these questions are really in no specific order. I'm just taking them as I get them.
Sure.
Is the Club of the Eagles, is this because of their existence and because nothing was done over multiple administrations to stop the arming of Iran with the bomb? Is it because that high-ranking members of our administration were in fact and are in fact part of the Eagles?
Well, of course.
Okay.
Of course.
I mean, in other words, they let this. The United States has allowed Iran to get to this point.
Of course, and the plan is to enable Iran to, behind the scenes, to get to that stage of being capable of suddenly come out with the manufacture of hundreds of nuclear warheads.
Okay.
Now,
all right.
Israel and Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel knows this threat. Israel has the right to defend itself and has the right to put Iran back into the trying to get there. These Iranians have to understand that this will be a good thing. If Israel bombs Iran's nuclear stations and all that, it will be a good thing, because otherwise I'm sure thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Iranians may be listening to this interview. I want them to understand that if nothing is done, there will be no more Iran or Persia left, because then there will be an all-out atomic war, and that will put the final nail in the coffin of our country. The Mullah regime has already killed our country, and if that happens, that will be it.
Okay. And that's a frightening prospect indeed. Wow.
Iran has to be stopped to prevent the big plan of the Eagles to flourish. You see, I'm not making all this up. That's why at the beginning of this interview, I read the writings of Albert Pike. Albert Pike wrote it all down in detail, and we are heading that way, and we are close to it. We are close to the end. The end time.
Right, and Margaret from the state of Washington wants me to ask, in your view, how close are we to the, if they succeed in, if they're not stopped, if the plans are not stopped, how close are we to seeing this conflagration that you speak of, that Albert Pike wrote about? How close are we to World War III?
I think between a year to 2 years. We are that close.
Wow. Mr. Nassiri, another listener question. Somebody wants to know what you think, what your opinion is of Mr. Obama and what his role is.
My opinion of President Obama, I respect him. He's a great man. He's a good man. But he has to obey his orders that come from above him.
Interesting.
That's all I can say.
He's a puppet like everyone else in that position.
Every president is. Mr. Hagmann, American people are very honest people, and they believe that in this country we have 100% freedom, and we choose our presidents. Those candidates that you vote for in the end, okay, it makes no difference which one gets in, because they are both part of the club. The elections are only a way to fool the people. Not many Americans are going to like hearing this, but it's true.
Okay.
I better not say any more. I better not say any more, or tomorrow I'll be kicked out.
Mr. Nassiri, we have 10 minutes left of this hour, and you're welcome to stay into the next hour if you have time or would like to. I'd like to hear your story of how you came to Christ. If you would like to share that, if that's something you want to talk about.
Sure. I grew up in Iran, and I was born to be a Muslim. And as I grew up, I realized that no matter how hard I forced myself to believe the things they believe in, I just couldn't believe them, because the stories are just so crazy. But the main reason was because I realized that Islam is a religion based on the power of sword and killings and all this. And when I studied Christianity and read a bit of Bible and all that, I realized that Christianity is all about forgiveness and the good things. And a lot of my friends have criticized me, saying, "Oh, what are you talking about? Christianity has been responsible for many, many deaths. How about the Crusades and this and that?" I said, yes, but all that was not the message of Christ. Okay?
Yes. And there you have it. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Yes. So a few months ago, I turned Christian, and there's a video on my personal YouTube channel that actually shows the procedure of me becoming Christian. I have two YouTube channels. One is for my movie, The Golden Veil.
Okay.
And then I have a private YouTube channel where these interviews all go there, and that is under the name Bahman Nassiri, under my name on YouTube. But you see, the Islamic religion, the things they believe in, I just cannot believe all these things, like, treat women badly, all this doesn't matter when you die. If you become martyr, you go to heaven, and there are 72 virgins waiting for you. Each one is 43 meters tall. Oh my God! I find it hard to take care of a 5'6" one. 72 virgins. Can you imagine 43 meters tall? And there are rivers of milk and rivers of honey. And, so I realized all this when I was only 15 years old or so, that they are promising, they promised the Arabs in 1400 years ago in the desert, they didn't have enough milk or honey or all the good things they didn't have. They promise Muslims all these things, and then they brainwash them with all this. So these people are looking forward to blow themselves up and become martyrs, and because the 72 virgins are waiting for them. I mean, for a human mind of the 21st century to believe any of this is just unbelievable to me.
Wow.
They brainwash children. I'll give you this, I'll tell you this, which is very sad. What happened during the Iran-Iraq war? There was a field that Saddam Hussein's army had placed mines on this field. It was full of mines, and the Iranian forces had to clear this field to cross this field. And so on one end of the field, they put a man on a white horse with a battery-operated neon halo around his head, and on the other side of the field, they got between 12 to 15-year-old little boys, and they put the keys of heaven around their necks, and they pointed to the man on the horse, and they said, "Hey, that is Imam Mahdi, the one with the 12th Imam that's coming." And so the children, now you see 12 or 15-year-old children brainwashed like that, thinking, "Oh, there is Mahdi, he's going to take us to heaven." And they all ran across the field, and they cleared all the mines with their blood. Isn't that sad?
Incredibly so. And to think, to even comprehend that, it's beyond human comprehension. No, it's sad. Indeed, it is. I've got a specific question for you. This has to do with, I interviewed 2 of the hostages who were held for 444 days. 2 of the 52 American hostages I interviewed. Both had said that Ahmadinejad was one of the architects of the Iranian, the takeover of the American embassy. As far out of a question as that is, was he part of that takeover?
The Rosh Hashanah? Part of the Rosh Hashanah?
Part of the Rosh Hashanah.
Did he participate in the hostage taking?
Yes,
of course he was. Of course he was one of the hostage takers, amongst many others, including a lady. I forgot her name right now, but yes, all these people who are in charge. A lot of them were people who were involved in that. But the hostage taking was a big plan. It was a conspiracy plan, which I have shown in my film, The Golden Veil. And although it may be shocking to Americans and those who love President Reagan, and I loved President Reagan, my belief right now is that most probably President Reagan did not know personally that the plan was to get rid of Jimmy Carter through the hostage crisis, and the hostage taking was a conspiracy to take American embassy workers hostage, keep them there for 444 days, destroy Carter to get rid of him, and Ronald Reagan won the presidency because of that. And as a secret sign, there were a number of secret signs there. They actually put the hostages on the plane on Reagan's inauguration day. And all this is shown in detail in my movie, The Golden Veil.
Okay, and I would urge everyone listening to this program to, now off of our website, HomelandSecurityUS.com, you can connect directly to to purchase the DVD, and I'd recommend that DVD to everyone. John from Pasadena asked, wrong John. John from Kansas has asked whether you think, if you saw the movie Argo, and if there was any, if you did see it, which was apparently about the Iranian, embassy takeover, if that was true, or if that was just propaganda.
Very good question, and I would like to. How much time do I have? Because I would like to talk about this.
We're going to extend the.
Oh, okay.
We're going to extend it. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, of course I saw Argo. One of the reasons I went to see Argo was because one of the actors in Argo played in my movie The Golden Veil. Although in Argo he only had a very short role, but there was an actor in my movie. I won't say which one, but so that when you see the two movies you may recognize the guy. In my movie, he played the role of a torturer inside Evin prison in Iran, and he's 7 foot tall. Yes, I saw Argo. There are many mistakes in that film. First of all, I was very upset at the beginning of the movie Argo for the things that they said against the Shah of Iran and my dear Empress who lives in exile. Those were a bunch of lies. And I have talked in detail about those lies in, I think I talked about it in Rick Wiles' interview. Yes.
Yes.
But what is wrong with Argo is this. Those hostages who escaped from the back door, they actually they went to the British embassy. And actually, I am not making this up. The British ambassador at that time, straight after Argo was released, the London's Daily Telegraph, there was an article there where he was so upset about this. What happened was that they actually stayed at the British embassy for one night. Now, it was the idea of the British ambassador for them to be moved to the Canadian embassy. It wasn't, that is a lie saying that the British didn't want to help. Why did they want to send them to the Canadian embassy? Because the crowd were chanting death to America and death to Britain. So the British ambassador thought that they will probably storm the British embassy next. So for the safety of those the 6 hostages, they sent them to the Canadian embassy. And then, of course, the Canadian embassy helped, and they gave them Canadian passports, and these people just flew normally out of the airport, and the Iranian authorities didn't even know for 2 weeks that they had left. There was no such thing like this film shows, a convoy chasing the plane. And this is Hollywood for you, garbage. This is Hollywood garbage for you. That was all total lies. And that guy, Tony Mendes, he was only in Tehran for a few hours. He didn't leave with the hostages, as the movie shows. There are so many things wrong with that film. When they stormed the embassy, there was no tear gas fired or anything like that. In my film, the way it's shown, that shows the truth. That they look out of the window, there's too much crowd breaking in, and the order is, do not resist, surrender. There are so many things wrong with Argo.
Understood. Okay. Wow. So, okay. In fact, Sue from West Texas wants to know exactly where she can get a copy of The Golden Veil. Of course, we have it linked to Amazon.
It's very easy.
Go ahead.
It's very easy. Just go to Amazon and type The Golden Veil. Now, Amazon has taken over the publishing and distribution of this film. And this happened about 2 weeks ago. So you can actually buy Amazon DVDs. Amazon is the publisher and distributor. However, I also sell limited edition ones autographed by myself with custom designed cases, but those are expensive. Those are also on Amazon, but those are like $35. But Amazon DVDs are selling at $19.99.
Okay. All right. Very, very good. I just want to make sure that we had the proper link connected, and we do, folks.
The link that you have placed, very kind of you to have done that, but the link that you have placed takes them to the DVDs that I am selling. But if they just type The Golden Veil in Amazon search, they will find the cheaper ones that are published and distributed by Amazon itself.
Well, we certainly want to be able, collectively and individually, we want to support your efforts to get the word out there, to get the truth out there. So the difference between the price certainly is well worth it, in my view. But
there is also a much cheaper option. Under the video of this interview, which I will post on my channel, on my YouTube channel this weekend, I will place all the links. because we also have digital download options for $6.99, and then the cheapest way is to download for 3 days and just watch it for 3 days for $2.99. So there's all these different options, but because although I want to recover the cost of this film for an independent film, this was turned out to be very costly because I had to purchase a lot of real news footage from CBS News, all this, the copyrights, and use them in this film, and the music compositions, and the cost was quite high. But although I would like to recover my cost, that is why that's why I'm charging money for this, because otherwise, believe me, I would have offered this film for free for the world to watch and learn.
Well, no, it's that important, and certainly you should never feel bad for attempting to. Look, we know how expensive things are, how expensive it is, and even when you're on a mission to tell the truth, you're certainly not good to anyone broke, and destitute. So we understand that. Margot from Ponca City, Oklahoma asks about all of the American presidents. Are they automatically accepted into the higher Eagles Club, or must they be brought in? Are some brought in? Well, I guess the opposite of that are any presidents not selected for this club?
Well, Jimmy Carter wasn't. John F. Kennedy's dad was. JFK himself, I don't think he was.
Okay.
But most presidents have to obey orders from the lodge above.
Well, interesting, because now this John from Pasadena asked, you mentioned JFK, and John from Pasadena asked, how did the Eagles play into, if at all, into the death of John F. Kennedy and the assassination of John F. Kennedy? Were they in the planning? Go ahead.
Well, John F. Kennedy threatened this all secret societies. There is a video of that on YouTube. People can listen to his words, and he was going to he was challenging them. I mean, a president has to obey. A president has to obey them, not to challenge them. Unfortunately, to the best of my knowledge, that was the reason for the Kennedy assassination.
Okay.
And the way they operate, it's very clever. Mind control. All these terrorists, they are created. Believe me, it's a very complicated way. It will take me a whole hour to talk about that. But they are Oswald. Imagine if Oswald was only a robot doing the job. Okay, it wasn't his mind that decided to kill the president. It wasn't that robot that decided. They were
right.
You know what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think as we talked about this, we had Dr. John Hall on our program, who's a highly credentialed medical doctor, talking about mind control, and of course, you know about the MKUltra projects that began in 1953, and of course continued through the Church Committee, and then, but it never stopped. So, well, I guess the question that would lead into this would the shootings that we see, the mass shooting events. Could one consider the mind control aspect into the perpetrators? I mean, could this be the result of mind control?
Well, no. A crazy guy who goes into a school and shoots little children, it doesn't serve political agendas of those in charge. No, but there are casualties of this that happened. This is a different subject. This is, I've got rid of my cell phone. I don't have a cell phone because I truly believe that sends certain vibrations into your brain, and that is actually we don't see those transmissions, we don't feel them, but they are affecting people's brains. They just turn them into. Science has reached certain points that a lot of it hasn't been released to the public. We don't know what's going on.
Fantastic.
And one of the things is that they are trying to reduce world population.
Yes.
The world population of 7 billion is considered to be way too high. Before World War I, there were 3 billion people on Earth, and they were saying it's overcrowded. Now we have 7 billion, and natural resources have declined, and there are deep problems, Mr. Hagmann.
Right. No,
and there are several. Right. There are many ways that they are using to give people cancer, to reduce population.
Interesting. And this, well, of course, we can see the Georgia Guidestones, about reducing the world's population. We know the plans of the Illuminati. We heard the words of Brzezinski yesterday during yesterday's program. We played that, so we know what the plans are. One last question before we cut you loose, let you take a break. You've been very gracious with your time tonight, sir. I want to thank you. But
it's been a pleasure, Mr. Hagmann. This has been the chance of my life to appear on Hagmann and Hagmann's show, to have my voice heard, because I was a nobody before. Well, in the scheme of things, we're no one either. I mean, but you've got a terrific message out there. I mean, your message is very clear, very concise. Now, Bob and Maggie, the final question here. Bob and Maggie want to know whether it's your belief, based on your Christian conversion, if the Mahdi, the Imam Mahdi, would this be the Antichrist that's referred to in the Christian Bible, do you believe? It could well be, because I can explain this in about 2 or 3 minutes. Imam Mahdi is supposed to be the 12th Imam of the Shia sect of Islam. He was a child who disappears, okay?
Right.
Now, they believe that he went down into a well in Iraq, not in Iran, in Iraq. He went down into a well and disappeared as a child. My father, God bless his soul, he said to me, what garbage this is. This may have been a little boy who went to drink from a well and fell in and drowned. But never mind. Let's say that. But what they believe is that he disappeared, and he's the one who's gonna come back, not as a child, but as a grown-up man on a white horse that comes when Armageddon takes place and takes you all to heaven. Now, the thing is that he disappeared in a well in Iraq, but Iranians they built another well in the city of Qom in Iran, saying this is where he's going to come out of. So he fell into a well in Iraq, and he's going to come out of a well in Iran. Imam Mahdi must have dug a tunnel from Iraq to Iran. I mean, do you see why I turned Christian? Do you see why I just couldn't believe in all these lies? So,
of course.
Yes. To answer your question, you see, your listener's question, that was a very good question, because that's what they believe, that's what they want to happen, and so therefore that prediction could be quite accurate, yes.
Wow. Well, Nassiri, it has been a pleasure having you on our show and sharing your story with us. I don't know if you plan on doing radio again after this, but if you do, I want to let you know that you're always welcome to come back here to talk more about this and other endeavors that you are getting into and doing. And we really appreciate your time and you coming out of radio retirement to speak to our audience.
We are humbled by that fact. And one last thing, the book, The Golden Mask, will not be available or will be available?
No, Mr. Hagmann, as I explained, it will be available after my death.
After your death,
it will be. It will be released. That I promise, that it will be released. And in that book, I managed to gather 63 names. 63 names. There are probably 1,000, but I was told there's less than 1,000 members. 63 names I have, and these names will shock the American people. That is what guarantees my safety. If I release the book today, tomorrow I will be dead. But that guarantees my safety. And I am pretty sure, Mr. Hagmann, that living in America, they cannot take me and torture me or waterboard me or all this to try and get information out of me. I'll shoot my brains out before it gets to that. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness.
It's been a great pleasure talking to you, and I thank the American citizens for listening to this show. I really thank them for their precious time for more than an hour.
Well, thank you so much, sir. God bless you. Stay safe, and let's keep in touch. We do want to know how you're doing. We certainly want to keep our tabs on you to make sure you're okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank
sir.
you.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Folks, that was an incredible interview, Joe. Man, of course, folks, that was Bahman Nassiri. Bahman Nassiri. And if you go to HomelandSecurityUS.com, we've got a link up to the Amazon page where he is selling his DVD, The Golden Veil. And, of course, we're certainly going to order that. Man. Joe, I'm just stunned on a number of levels.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to go back and listen to that interview. But yeah, there was a lot of when you get to that level and you're infiltrating or getting into these groups, your life can be taken for talking about certain things.
Yes, and remember, folks, remember me saying the very famous, or the phrase that sticks with me by my friend who's in the intelligence world: the lie is different at every level. If you apply that to the degrees, the Masonic degrees, the lie is different at every level. That is so true. And having spoken to my intelligence insider, my intelligence sources, plural, that statement is so true. So at one level, you're told, well, you had what we told you before. Yeah, we had to tell you that to get you to this level of understanding. Then next level and the next level. And again, the lie is different at every level. And no, I can't. I was going to say something about that statement, but I can't. Just suffice it to say that in closed committee, that statement has been said in closed committee hearings to people who don't have the intelligence clearance. Wow, what an interview. And Scott, as a young man of 13, we want to thank you so very much for pointing us to Mr. Nassiri and for certainly arranging that interview. Scott, you're an amazing young man. We thank you so very much. And ladies and gentlemen, I think if you go back and listen to what he said, I think it would be very important to do so.
Absolutely. We're going to go to a short break and come back with your phone calls. Hopefully the phones are much better condition than they were last night when we tried to take calls. 244-9839. For those of you who joined us late, next week, Dave Hodges on Monday, Standeo Tuesday, Reverend Michelle Hopkins Wednesday, also a show Saturday and Sunday, which I'll explain on the other side. You're listening to the Hagmann Report. We'll be right back.